I still don't know what hurt more, his words, the silence that followed, or the way he handed me the check like I was just a leftover. It started like any ordinary Friday evening. I had just wrapped up a hectic week at the design agency and was halfway through my second reheated coffee when Jared texted, "Dinner with a few colleagues tonight. 7 p.m. at Lenora's. You in?" Lenora's. The place with gold-trimmed menus, crystal chandeliers, and steak prices that don't show up unless you're brave enough to ask. I paused. Jared had never invited me to meet his colleagues before. For 2 years, he always said, "It's just work stuff, nothing personal." But tonight was different. Something in me stirred. Maybe hope? Or the tiny voice that had been begging for reassurance that we were actually going somewhere. I wanted to believe this meant something. So I said yes. And for the first time in months, I let myself feel excited. I spent 2 hours getting ready. 2 hours I now wish I could get back. I pulled out the soft satin wrap dress Jared once complimented on our third date. Did my makeup with more care than I'd like to admit. Even used the fancy curling wand I usually save for weddings and job interviews. When I stepped into Lenora's, heels clicking nervously against polished marble, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror by the entrance. I looked nice, confident even. But Jared didn't look up when I approached the table. Just gave a half glance and muttered, "You wore that." His 2 colleagues, guys I'd never met before, snickered quietly behind their wine glasses. I froze. My stomach tightened. That was the greeting? I sat down, smiling like I hadn't heard it. One of the guys, slim, slicked back hair, custom suit, introduced himself as Zach. The other, bulkier with a perpetual smirk, was Theo. Jared didn't even bother to introduce me properly. Just waved a hand and said,
"Elena,
my +1.
no girlfriend."
No partner. Just +1. As the dinner dragged on, I realized quickly that I wasn't part of the conversation. I was background noise. Jared talked shop nonstop. Data pipelines, strategic partnerships, something about global expansion. I tried to contribute once, mentioned a branding campaign my agency had done for a sustainable coffee company, and Jared cut me off mid-sentence. "She's in artsy stuff," he said, chuckling. "Thinks logos save the world." The table laughed. I smiled, but something cracked inside me. Not enough to spill out. Not yet. By the time our entrees arrived, I was barely holding it together. I'd ordered pasta, the cheapest item I could find, and Jared made a point of commenting, "Carbs, huh? Bold move." I don't know why that one stung the most. Maybe because I've struggled with my body image for years. Maybe because he knew that. But I laughed. Again. Because that's what you do, right? Smile through it. Pretend you're not shrinking into yourself. I excused myself to the bathroom before dessert, locked myself in a stall, and stared at the floor tiles, trying not to cry. Then I checked my phone and saw Jared's Instagram story. Photo of the table. Caption, "Boys' night out. Deals over dinner." No mention of me.
Notad.
Not even a damn emoji. I stood there, heart pounding. I felt stupid, humiliated, disposable. But mostly, I felt done. When I returned to the table, dessert had arrived. Jared was laughing at something Theo said. I sat down quietly, pushing the spoon of creme brulee around without tasting it. Then came the moment I'll never forget. The bill arrived. Jared picked it up, glanced at it, and without missing a beat, slid it in front of me. "You've got this, right?" And before I could respond, he said, "Actually, Elena, I've been thinking. This isn't working. I'm not attracted to you anymore." He stood up, grabbed his coat, and smiled before adding, "Honestly, a girl like you should be grateful I even gave you a chance." And just like that, he walked away. With his friends. Laughing. I stared at the bill. $423. For a dinner I barely ate. For people who never saw me. I paid. With a credit card I couldn't afford to max out. Walked to my car in silence. And cried the moment the door shut. But I wasn't crying for him. I was crying because I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. I don't really remember the drive home that night. I remember the tears, though. Hot, relentless, and angry. Not just sadness, but rage. Rage at how small he made me feel. At how easily he discarded me. At how I'd smiled through all his little digs, convinced myself they were harmless, that I was being sensitive. When I got home, I didn't even take my shoes off. I collapsed onto the couch in my dress, makeup smeared, heels still on, and sat there in silence. The city buzzed quietly outside my window, cars, sirens, life moving on, but I felt frozen. Like I'd stepped out of my own body and was watching a girl I used to be unravel. Around 11:30, I finally texted Marissa. "I need you." She showed up 15 minutes later with takeout, a bottle of red wine, and a look on her face like someone had just kicked her dog. I didn't even have to say anything. She took one look at me and opened her arms. I cried into her hoodie while she whispered, "I've got you. He's trash. You're not crazy." Eventually, between bites of lukewarm sesame noodles and sips of wine, I told her everything, the outfit comment, the mockery, the Instagram story, the dumping, and, worst of all, the final line. "A girl like you should be grateful. I even gave you a chance." Marissa sat in stunned silence for a few moments. Then she said, "Okay, I'm gonna need you to talk me out of committing a felony." That made me laugh a little. Not much, but enough. Then her face changed. She narrowed her eyes and leaned forward. "You said this was a work dinner?" "Yeah." "And he said they were senior execs?" I nodded. She grabbed her phone and started scrolling. "Do you remember their names?" "Zach and Theo." A beat passed. Then another. Then she said,
Elena.
"I think your boy's been lying." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" Marissa turned her screen to me. She had pulled up the staff directory for Teltech Solutions, Jared's company. Zach and Theo were there all right, listed as junior business analysts. Not high-level execs. Not even mid-level. And Jared? Nowhere to be found in the leadership page. No bio. No department head listing. Just a single mention on an old press release from last year. Operations Assistant, Jared Whitmore. My stomach turned. He told me he was head of strategic partnerships. I whispered, almost to myself. Marissa looked me dead in the eye. "Girl, he fetches coffee and books conference rooms." I felt something shift in me, something sharp and electric. The hurt hadn't faded, not yet. But now it had a direction, a pulse, a purpose. How many lies had he told me? How much of our relationship was even real? I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through old messages. Photos. Voice notes. Things I'd never questioned before. That business trip to Denver last year? I found the selfie he sent from the hotel lobby with a generic background. When I zoomed in, the Wi-Fi login on the reception desk read, "Laurel in Austin." He hadn't even left town. The all-night meetings during the app launch week? I cross-checked the timestamps with my own location history on Google Maps. He wasn't at the office. He was across the city at a rooftop bar. I sat back, the phone trembling slightly in my hands. My heart was racing, not from heartbreak anymore, but from the thrill of the realization. This man had built an entire identity out of fiction. And I had been dating a ghost of someone who didn't exist. Marissa leaned over and said, "I have a friend, Nate. He works in HR at Teltech. Quiet guy, but he might be able to dig up some real info." Normally, I would have said no. I would have said it's too much. I'm not that kind of person. But not that night. That night, I said, "Text him." While Marissa typed, I opened Instagram again. Scrolling through Jared's recent stories. They were gone now, deleted. Like the dinner had never happened. Like I was the only one who remembered. I took a deep breath, put my phone down, and said, if he wanted to be the main character so badly, let's give him a real story. By Saturday afternoon, my apartment looked like a detective's war room. Screenshots, printouts, sticky notes. Jared's face glared up at me from a dozen angles. Instagram selfies, LinkedIn headshots, blurry pics from old dinner parties. It was wild how different the versions of him looked when you stopped trying to love them. Marissa had stayed the night. We hadn't slept much, mostly combed through every digital trace Jared had left behind. She kept saying, "You sure you want to go this deep?" But I already knew the answer. When someone builds their whole personality on lies and then tries to make you feel small, exposing them isn't revenge. It's survival. At 10:42 a.m., Nate texted, "Hey, it's Nate, Marissa's friend. I did some digging. Not sure how much you already know, but Jared isn't a senior anything. He's listed as a level 2 ops coordinator. No team under him. No leadership training. Not even invited to quarterly exec reviews." I stared at the message for a full minute before responding. Level 2, as an entry level? Basically, he's been written up twice. One was for taking credit for a teammate's presentation slides. The other was for, get this, lying to a client about his role and using a fake title in emails. I nearly dropped my phone. So not only was he lying to me, he was lying to everyone, including his employer. I thanked Nate and asked, cautiously, if anyone at the company might be willing to talk to me off the record. He replied with a single name, Brooke. She's sharp, knows everything, and has no love for Jared, he added. I reached out that afternoon. Brooke responded within 10 minutes. I was wondering when someone would finally call him out. I'm in. We arranged to meet for coffee the next morning. In the meantime, I went back into the archives of our relationship, the photos, the messages, the gaps I never noticed because I was too busy making excuses for him. There was the time he said he was speaking on a panel at Tech Forward. I looked it up. The event did exist, but Jared's name didn't appear anywhere in the official schedule.
Then I checked his story from that day.
It was just a photo of him standing next to a branded backdrop with a caption, "Honored to be part of this industry conversation." Not a lie, technically. Just enough smoke to make you think there's fire. I found another gem, a picture of him in a meeting room with whiteboards and diagrams. It had always looked so CO-ish. Except when I reverse-searched the image on Google, it was a stock photo. A damn stock photo. He had posted a literal stock photo to his work story and edited himself into the background. I couldn't even be mad. It was so ridiculous it circled back around to impressive. Marissa walked into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. "Have you slept?" "Barely," I said, scrolling through a list of fake conferences he claimed to attend. "Did you know the Austin Tech Synergy Summit doesn't even exist?" She raised an eyebrow. "That sounds like something he made up in the shower." We both laughed, and it felt good, like a crack of light after a long storm. But behind the humor was something darker. Something deliberate forming in the pit of my stomach. I was tired of playing catch-up. Tired of reacting. It was time to decide what happened next. So when Jared's mom, Helen, called later that evening, I didn't let it go to voicemail. "Hi, sweetie," she said, her voice bright and warm like sunshine on a fake front porch. "I just wanted to confirm you're still coming to Jared's birthday dinner next Saturday. He said you two had a little spat, but we're working it out. We're all so excited to see you." I stared at the ceiling. "He told you we're still together?" I asked. "Of course. He said you had some big news to share. Clara's been guessing it's a proposal."
Oh, wow.
The man dumped me in public and then told his family I might be announcing an engagement. "I'll be there," I said calmly. Helen beamed through the phone. "Wonderful, dear. And wear that black dress you wore to Easter. You looked so elegant in it." I smiled. "I'll wear something special. See you soon, Helen." When I hung up, Marissa was standing in the hallway, mouth open. "You're going to his birthday dinner?" "Absolutely." "You're going into the lion's den?" "No," I said, grabbing a notepad and jotting down a plan. "I'm going into a stage. Let's give the audience a show." Sunday morning. Cloudy skies. Nervous stomach. Strong coffee. That's how I met Brooke. We sat across from each other in a cozy corner of Cafe Reverie, my go-to spot for quiet thinking and stronger-than-necessary lattes. Brooke looked exactly how I imagined someone in corporate intelligence would look. Sharp black blazer, confident posture, dark lipstick like war paint. But when she smiled, it was warm.
Real.
"So," she said, stirring her espresso. "Where do you want to start? The fake promotions or the office gossip?" I let out a breath, I didn't know I'd been holding. Honestly, wherever you want. I'm all ears. Brooke leaned forward. Here's the thing about Jared. He wants to be admired. Needs it really. But he doesn't want to earn it. So, he creates this fantasy version of himself. A little lie here, a fake title there. At first it was harmless, until he started throwing people under the bus to maintain the illusion. She sipped her drink. He's lied to HR, to clients, to coworkers. Hell, he once photoshopped himself into a leadership summit just to impress a recruiter. I blinked. Wait, seriously? She nodded. He didn't even do a good job. His shadow was facing the wrong direction. I almost choked on my coffee. But under the laughter was something deeper: validation. Proof that I hadn't been crazy. That I hadn't imagined the slow unraveling of our relationship or the gut feeling that something never quite added up. Then Brooke pulled a slim manila folder from her bag and slid it across the table. Internal memos. Emails. Screen grabs. HR warnings. Don't ask how I got them. I didn't. I just opened the folder. Inside was everything. Warnings for misrepresentation of role, documentation about Jared claiming expenses he wasn't authorized for, notes from team members about inconsistencies in communication. But one thing stood out: an internal review notice dated just last week. Jared was on his final strike. My heart beat faster. Why are you helping me? I asked quietly. Brooke gave a half smile. Because I hate liars. And because women like us get told too often to sit down, stay quiet, and not make waves. You're making a storm. I respect that. We spent the next hour planning. Brooke agreed to drop off documents during Jared's birthday dinner. Nothing overt. Nothing explosive. Just present. Just enough for the illusion to begin cracking in front of the people who mattered most to him, his family. And I would let it happen. I wasn't going to shout or cause a scene. I wasn't going to play the villain in his story. I was going to smile and watch his perfect little house of lies come crumbling down. The week leading up to the dinner was surreal. Jared hadn't contacted me. Not a text, not a call. Maybe he assumed I'd disappeared quietly. Maybe he was too busy crafting a new reality to notice the storm building behind him.
Meanwhile,
I was preparing. I gathered everything. Screenshots of old texts, emails he forwarded me that didn't match timelines, photos he claimed were from work that were clearly stock images or lifted from company socials. I even found a LinkedIn message he'd sent to a recruiter last year claiming to lead a team of 12. The only team he'd led was our Netflix queue. Every lie felt like a paper cut when I first discovered it.
but now?
Now they were threads. And I was pulling. Marissa helped me rehearse what I might say, how to keep my composure, how to control the pacing, when to reveal, and when to let silence do the damage. It's like chess, she said, flipping through my folder. You don't scream checkmate. You wait until they realize they lost 3 moves ago. On Friday night, the eve of the party, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, heart pounding. Was I doing the right thing? Would they believe me? What if they turned on me instead? But then I remembered the look on Jared's face when he slid the bill toward me. The way he grinned when he said, I wasn't a prize. The way his friends laughed as I sat there humiliated, invisible, discarded. And something inside me burned hot and cold at the same time. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. It was about giving the story an ending that didn't leave me broken and small. Saturday afternoon, I got dressed slowly.
Carefully.
I chose the black dress Jared once called boring. I always thought it made me look strong. Marissa curled my hair and handed me a pair of earrings shaped like daggers. For power, she said, winking. As I looked in the mirror, something shifted in my reflection. I didn't see the girl who cried in a bathroom stall anymore. I saw someone sharp, composed. Someone who wasn't going to be anyone's footnote ever again. At 5:48 p.m., I grabbed the folder, my coat, and my keys. As I walked out the door, my phone buzzed. A text from Jared. Looking forward to seeing you tonight. Wear something nice. My parents are excited. I stared at it.
And smiled.
Let the show begin. Jared's family lived in a picture-perfect colonial just outside of Austin. Big yard, neatly trimmed hedges, a swing on the porch that probably hadn't moved since 1998. The kind of place where secrets weren't talked about but buried in the backyard and covered with fresh mulch. It was 6:12 p.m. when I pulled into the driveway, fashionably late by exactly 12 minutes. Just enough to make an entrance. There were already half a dozen cars parked outside. The house was glowing inside with warm light, silhouettes moving behind tall windows. Jared's world assembled. I sat in my car for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. Then I looked down at my lap, at the thin manila folder resting there like a loaded weapon, and whispered to myself, "You don't have to yell to be heard. Let the silence speak." I stepped out. Helen answered the door, beaming. "Elena." "Oh, honey, it's so good to see you. We've missed you." She pulled me into a hug before I could say a word. Her perfume smelled like lilac and sugar cookies. Inside, the living room was buzzing. Jared's dad, Douglas, raised a glass from across the room. "There she is. We thought Jared scared you off." Jared's sister, Clara, looked up from her phone and gave me a tight, curious smile. And then there he was,
Jared.
standing near the fireplace, surrounded by cousins and a half-empty whiskey glass in hand. He froze when he saw me, eyebrows lifting just enough to betray his surprise. Then came the mask, the smooth smile, the half-step forward. "You actually came," he murmured under his breath, leaning in for a quick hug. I returned it lightly and said, just loud enough for the room, "Of course. Wouldn't miss your big night, especially since you told everyone we had exciting news to share." The room quieted for a fraction of a second. Clara's eyes sharpened. Helen clapped her hands together and said, "Is it what I think it is?" Douglas chuckled. "We getting grandkids tonight, or what?" Jared laughed a little too loudly. Let's eat first." He gripped my arm a little tighter than necessary and tried to steer me into the dining room. I didn't resist, but I didn't bend either. The table was set with crystal glasses, silver chargers, perfectly folded napkins in the shape of tulips. Jared's family didn't play around when it came to presentation. Dinner started off civil enough. Helen kept the conversation going, asking about work, my family, whether I'd seen the new botanical garden exhibit. I answered politely, smiled in all the right places. "Jared?" He was squirming. He kept glancing at me. His left leg bounced under the table. His glass emptied faster than anyone else's. "Tell them about your promotion, honey," Helen said halfway through the roast chicken course. I set my fork down slowly. Jared cleared his throat. "Oh, right, yeah. Well, things at the firm are moving fast. The department's expanding. I'm basically overseeing our regional partnerships now." Douglas raised a brow. "So, you're managing a team now?" Jared nodded.
Yep.
5 direct reports. It's been a lot. But 6, I said, cutting in softly. Jared blinked. "What? You told me it was 6 last week. At dinner." I tilted my head. Or was it 7? I get confused. Clara's gaze narrowed like a laser. Before Jared could answer, the doorbell rang. Timing. Impeccable. "I'll get it," Helen sang, rising from her seat. Jared looked like someone had just yanked the emergency brake on a roller coaster. He shot me a look of disbelief, then shoved his chair back halfway like he might bolt. Too late. Helen returned with Brooke, all calm professionalism, and a large envelope tucked under one arm. "Sorry to interrupt," she said smoothly, "but I was told this couldn't wait. It's for Jared. From the office." Jared stood stiffly. "I told them not to. Work emergencies don't wait, sweetie," Helen chirped, then turned to Brooke. "Would you like to join us for dessert?" Brooke smiled sweetly. "I'd love to, if it's not too much trouble." Jared tried to redirect the conversation. "So, Dad, how's the new golf range?" But Douglas wasn't biting. Instead, he asked, "So this team you're managing, what are their names?" Jared coughed. Well, turnover's been high." Clara cut in. Didn't you say last month you had a corner office now? Silence. I leaned back slightly and said, "We can pull up the company directory if that helps." Douglas turned toward me slowly. "What's going on, Elena?" I looked at Jared and smiled. "I think the cake should come out first. It's going to be a very memorable birthday." The silence after I spoke was surgical. It didn't explode. It sliced thin, precise, deliberate. Everyone at the table turned toward Jared. Helen hovered near the kitchen doorway, confused but holding a tray of dessert plates. Clara had stopped scrolling through her phone, her gaze fixed on me like a bloodhound catching a scent. Jared forced a laugh. "I'm not sure what this is about, but let's not get dramatic." Brooke, still seated gracefully at the edge of the table, spoke up before he could continue. "I actually brought the wrong envelope," she said, pulling out another from her bag. "This one contains Jared's current job documentation. HR asked me to verify some title inconsistencies." Helen blinked. "Title inconsistencies?" I reached into my own bag and set my manila folder gently on the table. "Maybe we should clear some things up, since there seems to be confusion." Jared's eyes locked onto the folder like it was a live grenade. Clara leaned forward. "What is that?" "Documentation," I replied.
Calm.
Controlled. From Teltech's internal system. Jared's actual role. His HR status. The memos he conveniently never mentioned. Douglas slowly set down his glass of wine. "Wait, what do you mean his actual role?" I opened the folder and pulled out the first page, Jared's employee profile, clearly labeled. Operations Coordinator 2, non-managerial. Clara snatched it from my hand before Jared could intervene. "Is this real?" she asked, turning to Brooke. Brooke nodded once. "I can confirm it. I work in strategy ops. We share an internal database."
No managerial.
Douglas asked. "But you said you had a team." "I do," Jared interrupted, voice rising. "I mean, not directly, but I work with the team." "Assisting the team," Brooke corrected softly. "Filing expense reports. Scheduling meetings. You don't lead anything." Jared's jaw clenched. Clara flipped to the next document. "What's this?" she asked. "A formal warning?" I leaned in. "That one's about the time he presented someone else's work as his own." Helen gasped. "Stop," Jared growled, standing now. "This is insane. You're hijacking my birthday dinner to make me look bad?" "No," I said, my voice steady. "You did that all by yourself. I'm just bringing clarity." Douglas turned to Brooke. "You said you're with a company?" "Yes, sir. And I debated coming here at all. But Jared's behavior has affected a lot of people. His dishonesty, his attempts to inflate his position. Our team has had to clean up his messes more than once." Jared was pale now, visibly sweating. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for a napkin. "I was going to fix things," he muttered. "I just needed time to prove myself." "By lying to everyone who cares about you?" Clara asked, her voice sharp. "That's your idea of progress?" Then Helen, God bless her gentle heart, finally spoke. "Jared," she said quietly, heartbreak coloring every syllable. "Did you really lie to us about everything?" Jared didn't respond, and so I filled in the gaps. I told them about the restaurant, the mocking, the insult, how he dumped me in front of his friends and left me with the $423 bill like I was disposable. Helen put a hand to her mouth. Douglas stared down at his plate, silent. "Clara?" She was fuming. "I knew something was off," she said. "You always dodged real questions. You always made yourself the hero in every story." Jared slammed his palm down on the table. "Enough." "Agreed," I said, rising from my chair. "I think we're done here." But just as I was about to leave, Jared exploded. "You should be grateful," he shouted. "All of you. I've been carrying this family's expectations since I was a kid. And you," he pointed at me, voice shaking. "You wouldn't even exist in rooms like this if it weren't for me. I gave you class. I gave you access. And how do you repay me? By dragging me down?" The room fell deathly still. And then Brooke, quietly, as if commenting on the weather, said, "Your badge was deactivated this morning. HR finalized your termination after your Instagram meltdown on Friday." Jared's mouth opened.
Closed.
Opened again. "I was fired," he whispered, stunned. "Yes," Brooke said, still calm. "They just hadn't told you yet." Helen sat down slowly, like her knees gave out. Douglas finally spoke. "Jared,
Son.
I don't know what you've been chasing, but it's not the truth. And it's certainly not us." And then came the quietest moment of all, the moment Jared realized he'd been left standing alone. Not by me, but by everyone. Jared stood there, motionless. For a moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. His face had gone completely blank. No more smirks, no smooth talk, no carefully calculated arrogance. Just a hollow expression, like someone watching their reflection crack and fall to pieces. Helen broke the silence first. "Jared," she said gently, "why didn't you just tell us the truth?" He didn't answer. Just stared at Brooke, then me, then the open folder on the table like it was radioactive. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he said finally, voice hoarse. "I just wanted to be more. To be somebody." "You are somebody," Clara snapped. "Or, at least you were, before you lied your way through everything and treated people like trash." Douglas stood slowly. His movements were heavy, measured. "I'm not angry about the job," he said. "People struggle. People fall short. But I am deeply disappointed in the way you treated Elena and the way you used our trust as a smokescreen." Jared's hands clenched at his sides. His voice cracked. "You don't get it. I was under pressure. Everyone expects me to be the golden son. I didn't ask for that. I had to fake it just to keep up." I raised an eyebrow. "So that justified humiliating me in public? Calling me ugly? Leaving me with the bill?" His eyes met mine. "You were always too good at making me feel less." I blinked. I wasn't the one lying. He laughed bitterly.
No.
"You were just watching. Sitting there with your perfect little morals while I drowned." "I was supporting you," I said, my tone steel now. "You're confusing loyalty with stupidity, Jared. And you ran out of both." He stepped back, bumping into the edge of the table. The movement knocked over a glass of red wine, which spilled across the white tablecloth like blood across snow. No one moved to clean it. And then, as if something inside him finally snapped, Jared exploded. "Fine," he barked. "Go ahead. Celebrate. Tear me down. But don't pretend this makes you better than me." His voice rose, shrill and wild. "You all think I'm the villain? I had a plan. I was building something. I was trying to get ahead. But no one saw that. No one helped. Everyone was too busy waiting for me to fail." He turned on Brooke. "You little office snitch. Always watching, always judging." Brooke just stared, unbothered. "I don't have to judge you. You do it to yourself." He whipped back toward Clara. "You were always jealous. Just waiting for me to screw up." Clara didn't flinch. "I hoped you wouldn't. But you made it easy." Finally, he looked back at me, and something about the look in his eyes told me this was the final scene. The unraveling was complete. "You think you won,"
he said.
"No," I replied, quiet and certain. "I think I survived." Then, I did something I hadn't planned. I walked over to him, calm as a breeze, and held up his phone, the one he'd left on the table earlier. "Password still your dog's name?" I said. "You might want to update that." I tapped the screen and opened his Facebook app. Everyone's eyes followed. "I figured you might want to delete a few things before they go viral," I added, and then showed the table what he'd posted at 3 a.m. that morning. "If I go down, I'm taking all of you with me, family or not. I don't owe anyone anything anymore." Helen gasped softly. Clara covered her mouth. Douglas looked like someone had gut-punched him. Jared lunged, "Shared with a few folks in case you try anything dramatic." His face twisted.
Rage.
Embarrassment.
Fear.
All of it. He stormed out without another word, slamming the door so hard that the frame shook and one of the pictures in the hallway tilted sideways. No one chased him. No one even stood up. Silence returned. But this time, it felt peaceful. After a long pause, Douglas cleared his throat. I need some air. Helen sat back down, eyes glassy, and said softly, I'm so sorry, Elena. I don't even know what to say. I reached over and placed my hand gently on hers. You don't have to say anything. He made his choices. You didn't. Then Clara, bless her blunt honesty, asked, So what now? Are you pressing charges or just publishing a memoir? We all laughed, and it felt real. Brooke stood and collected the now empty envelope. My job here is done, she said with a wink. You're a legend, I replied. As she left, she passed me a folded napkin with a note scribbled on it. When men build empires on lies, women build exits. You walked out.
You win.
And for the first time in a very, very long time, I believed it. It's been 3 months since Jared's birthday dinner. 3 months since he walked out of that house, leaving behind the wreckage of his own lies. 3 months since I looked into a room full of people and refused to shrink. And in those 3 months, my life has been quiet. Beautifully, peacefully quiet. No more working late texts that made my stomach twist. No more worrying if I was enough. No more second-guessing my worth because someone else couldn't see it. I moved my furniture around the week after the dinner. I don't know why, something about changing the space helped change the energy. I tossed out the wine glasses we'd bought together, gave away the cheesy throw pillows he insisted were tasteful, and replaced the framed photo on my hallway wall with a quote I found online. You don't owe anyone the version of yourself they invented. Every morning now starts with sunlight on my face, coffee brewed just the way I like it, and no one judging my outfit or suggesting I wear my hair straighter, it's more polished. I didn't realize how heavy his voice had become until it was finally gone. Vanessa came over last week and laughed when she saw I'd framed Brooke's napkin note from the party. When men build empires on lies, she read aloud, then raised her coffee. To exits. I clinked my mug against hers. As for Jared, word got around quickly. The HR termination, the meltdown, the family fallout. I didn't have to say a word. He dug his own grave and live-streamed the funeral. Clara and I have kept in touch. Funny how losing someone can bring others closer. She checks in from time to time, sends me memes, shares awkward family group chat updates. Mom still thinks you might come to Thanksgiving. No pressure. Helen even mailed me a handwritten letter last month, thanking me for telling the truth with grace. She said she's been reflecting a lot and going to therapy. I wrote back, brief but kind. Jared did try to contact me a few times. First, it was a series of vague, guilt-laced texts. You made me look like a monster. I thought we were partners. Don't forget who helped you become who you are. I didn't respond. Then came the Instagram burner accounts, ones that followed me, liked old photos, left vague comments like, some people never learn.
Blocked.
All of them. The final straw was the day I ran into him at Target. I was in the home section, ironic, really looking at new curtains. Something light, sheer, and flowy. Something that made the room feel open. And there he was, holding a plastic bin of discounted clearance socks, wearing the same scuffed sneakers from when we first met. He saw me. I saw him.
And I didn't flinch.
I didn't smile. I didn't shrink. I didn't need anything from him. He opened his mouth, then thought better of it. He turned and walked away, leaving the socks behind. That was the moment I knew I'd truly healed. Because healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in the silence. Sometimes it's in the fact that your heart doesn't jump when his name pops up. That you sleep through the night. That your laughter comes easier. And sometimes it's in the person sitting across from you at brunch on a Sunday morning talking about documentaries and bad tattoos.
Cody. Yeah.
That Cody. No, we're not dating. Not yet. But we've been talking, hanging out, laughing. A lot. There's something gentle about him. The kind of gentle that doesn't ask for attention, just offers presence. He never tries to fix me. Never asks me to be anyone but myself. He did ask me once, in a quiet moment over coffee, why I never posted about the Jared situation. Why I didn't go viral with it like everyone expected. I told him the truth. Because it wasn't about vengeance. It was about reclaiming space. He nodded. That's powerful. I shrugged. That's peace. And it is. Because for all the chaos, all the embarrassment, all the brokenness Jared tried to leave me with, he didn't win. He didn't get the final word. I did. And I chose to walk away not as the girl who got humiliated at a restaurant, or the woman who had to prove someone wrong, but as someone who remembered her own voice. I didn't need to scream. I just needed to stop whispering. So here I am, in my own space, living my own truth. And finally,
Free.